What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 720 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Rob DeFelice.
Hey, everyone.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And of course, all of you that are listening. So chime in with your thoughts and tell us what you think about all the topics we break down here. Our usual rundown of the world of pro wrestling over the past few days. We're going to talk about the stuff that happened on TV. We're going to talk about releases, possibly a match that's going to be added to the card for Wrestlepalooza, and blah, blah, blah. So if you are chatting it up with us on YouTube, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe, ring your notification bell, and get your email alerts set up for the post show for tomorrow after the Wrestlepalooza pay-per-view combo edition with All Out. I am fairly certain I'm not going to do one separate for All Out. But of course, if I do, and you have your email alert set up, then you know that I go live at that point. Keep in mind as well, if you want to help support us on the monetary side of things, click on the thanks button, click on the YouTube channel membership. It's the same thing as Patreon. If you would rather do Patreon, same thing over there. All the Pick a Poison tier, the Darkcast tier, all that stuff is the same. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you get your merchandise. And also keep in mind, another place for you to chat it up is the Discord channel that we have. Always wanting more and more people to pop on over there and just have some fun and share in on the excitement on that front. So, hot tags. That's what we're doing. And I think that most of the stuff that we've got is going to be TV related or TV tangential. So let's backtrack to something that is not TV related. It's actually the total opposite. It's somebody who was not on TV for a little while. And that's Andrade. Now, it had been a little bit since we had seen him. He had wrestled at SummerSlam. And I pretty much lost track of the idea that we hadn't seen Andrade in the past few weeks. So the other day, out of nowhere, comes out, hey, Andrade's moved to the alumni section and he's been fired. Since then, we've gotten some more details. I don't think anything's been 100% confirmed about any of those details, but the rumor, speculation, blah, blah, of the whole thing, from what I've been seeing more than anything else, is that supposedly, allegedly, I don't know, throw out those qualifiers, Andrade potentially failed at least one, maybe even more wellness policy violations and got into some sort of an argument where he was sent home from SmackDown and then was basically subsequently fired. And he's tweeted out, like, thanks WWE, but it's kind of weird for him to get fired from WWE or to request his release or whatever it might have been this quickly, because it's been less than 2 years since he had rejoined the company, and he had at least, I think it was 18 months left on his contract. So it's not going great for Andrade. Either he was in a situation where they fired him this quickly, or he was already like, all right, I'm sick and tired of this and I don't want to be here either. And that could be a Charlotte Flair thing. It could be a booking thing that he was like, what do you mean I'm not the world champion? And then it's like, well, I never promised you that or whatever. But Andrade, one way or another, is no longer in WWE, which of course makes people think, is he going back to AEW? Is he going elsewhere? Et cetera, et cetera. Before we figure out like where he should potentially go, what do you guys think about just the idea of Andrade being gone already? Is this like, you know, shocking? Is it not shocking? Do you think that it's probably him quitting? Do you think it's him getting fired? We don't know, but what do you guys think?
It's shocking because this kind of stuff doesn't happen a lot in modern times, at least with WWE, you know, where if you're going to have massive releases, it's not just one guy, let alone a guy that you were, quite frankly, featuring pretty heavily, you know. I don't think it had anything to do with any kind of relationship thing or past relationship thing. I believe the John Alba report that there was a wellness violation, maybe more than one, and WWE probably just decided, hey, let's cut ties here. Because remember, if he tried to quit, I don't think he'd be saying thank you WWE, and I don't think we'd be speculating about, hey, where's he going next? I think it would be, hey, are they even going to let him wrestle until the end of his contract? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've no reason to disbelieve the reports about the wellness violation. It does seem odd because it does seem like certain wrestlers in the company are in breach of a certain kind of enhancing drug regulation. If you look at the way that, I don't know, say a Randy Orton or AJ Styles is looking strangely so much more in shape now than they were 5 years ago, even though they're in their mid-40s. But I think that there's probably a rationale behind it. It's probably some kind of thing involved. So, as I'd have no reason to disprove the report. I think that, it's shocking in a way, but then it's also a case of, well, if it's going to happen to some guy, it's going to happen to Andrade. Because this is kind of an MO of his, is that he'll either get fired or find a way to get himself released from his contract early. And I think also there's probably a part of it is that it seemed like, and maybe again this is somewhat speculation, but it seemed like he didn't want to play ball with the AAA stuff. Because he wasn't a CMLL guy, a CMLL like mainstay prior to joining WWE the first time. So maybe he was uncomfortable with the idea of working for AAA, and they probably said, well, as with a lot of their Latin American stars, it's like, well, we really want you to be involved in the AAA project. He probably said, nah, I'm not really interested. And so he's not been on any AAA show since they've done it. So it wouldn't surprise me if, he might have had a wellness violation, but instead of either sweeping on the rug or giving him like, a warning or something on those lines, said, okay, he's even potentially not playing ball with AAA stuff, and he's done this violation, and there's maybe some other issues because, put it this way, if he's not, by all accounts of what happened in his previous WWE run and how things went with AEW as well, if he's not pushed to a level that he believes that he should be pushed at, then he can become a hassle behind the scenes. So they thought, okay, maybe this is just like a good chance for us to just part ways and move on.
Meltzer, I'm reading a thing now, is saying, which of course, take it with a grain of salt when it comes to Meltzer. Sometimes he's got a great scoop, and sometimes he's talking out of his ass, and sometimes people report things when he's just speculating as if he's saying it's a fact and whatever. But according to this one thing I'm reading on Ring Report right now, Meltzer saying that WWE had a case of buyer's remorse and that they were upset about his English not having improved. And that they were looking at Penta and Phoenix as just being like, okay, well, they're considerably more, like higher up there on they had a higher ceiling. So it seems like that could potentially be, which it would make sense in some ways, but I
have to ask the question, like, how did his marriage to Charlotte work if he can't speak English really well?
Well, and in a similar vein, buyer's remorse. Let's take this report for face value for 2 seconds. Buyer's remorse. You didn't have negotiations with him. You didn't pass him in the hallway. You didn't watch the fucking television show he was on for the 3 years before. Watch some clips and listen. And this isn't the 90s. You didn't watch some fucking clips on the internet. I don't buy it. I personally don't buy that because that sounds like, what the fuck? What? Like, you're not paying attention to anything? Like, what the hell?
Relatively speaking, I would think, unless they're just so, like, it's harder to assess things when you're in the bubble, I'm sure. But I would imagine that they would be aware enough to be like, all right, well, we bring Cody Rhodes back. It's going to be a huge deal because he is one of the top guys and he's, like really leveled up. And, yeah. And like, hey, if we can get somebody like a Jade Cargill, then it might be a big deal because she was treated so well over in AEW and, we can work on her in-ring stuff and blah, blah. But with somebody like an Andrade or even a Miro or Aleister Black, that they would be in like that range where you'd go, all right, well, they're going to get a pop and we'll see what we can do. but they're probably not going to be 11 times better than what they were in WWE the last time because they weren't in AEW. Like, they weren't jobbers in WWE beforehand, but it was like, all right, they've stagnated. And then they went to AEW, and like Andrade wasn't lighting the whole fucking AEW on fire and being the hottest act in the company. He was feuding with Miro. So it's like same level of that.
I'm sorry, I call bullshit here. Andrade has always been relatively pushed fine in both promotions, and he was, like I said, he feuded with Cody. He was doing stuff in the Continental Classic and doing really well. Like
He was doing
I
fine.
thought Andrade was as good as Andrade's gonna be.
Right, that's the thing though. Like, he was at the level that he is perpetually at. As opposed to being like, man, once Andrade went over there to AEW, he's at like world title, one of the top over acts in the company. Like, Andrade, when he left AEW, wasn't in the position of somebody like, say, Kyle Fletcher is right now. Like, nah, Fletcher's higher up. And when you bring Andrade over, then it's like, oh, you're getting the same Andrade you had before. After a year and a half or whatever of booking him where you put him in the Money in the Bank and you give him a tag team and whatever. They didn't do anything fantastic with Andrade. So it was like, okay, another guy that's decent on the roster. He can have some matches. He could be an upper mid-card guy. He can be somebody who loses to somebody that matters higher up on the totem pole. And then he can beat some people that are lower. Like, dude fought for like 3 months for the United States Championship. He gave him some shots, and this was the level he was going to be at.
But you know what's why? Why are we talking about this like it's a fucking negative? It's a great spot to be in.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry. We need more. We need to get more of that like Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect mentality. Where it sucks that these guys weren't world champions, but they were fucking great. And I think that's where Andrade is. You don't feel it as much because Andrade is just in an era where everybody's amazing between the ropes. But Andrade's great in the ring and can be a great upper mid-card guy.
My original assessment of it that I put up on EWN was basically the same thing. It was like me being like, look, if you can stick around and be in that upper mid-card area for years upon years, it's effectively as good as you can get outside of just being the top tier and like legend status. Like, you're, I don't know, B+ player is the term for a lot of things. Like, that's fucking great. How many people don't get in there at all? How many people get in there and they're out in a hot minute? How many people are extremely lower on the card? Like, you think Cruz del Toro wouldn't rather have Andrade's spot? Absolutely.
And by the way, if we're taking that literally, who as a student wouldn't be like, fuck yeah, B+. That's a great, unless you're like a perfectionist.
Yeah,
B+ is great.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the type that cries because you got a 99 out of 100 on a quiz, then it's a different story. But
I mean, I think I'm willing to bet that the three of us probably were like that more often than not, at least in some subjects.
I mean, I still remember when I got my first C in 8th grade and I was kind of devastated about it. I was like, oh my God, I broke my record of getting A's and B's for absolutely everything. I failed this test and now I'm getting a C in this marking period. The world's over. I'm never going to get into college. Little did I know it was a waste anyway.
If it was English, go figure. I was very much, it has to be top notch. Math? Yeah, B+ is amazing.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like, when I was at school, like I was always getting like quite high marks for most things, but it's a case of I was surprised how easy I took it when I like actually failed 2 tests in my A levels and like just actually got like not even anywhere close to passing grades. It's like okay, like, I just got over that pretty quickly for those ones.
Just shit happens.
Probably because I did well on all the other ones. Like okay, that's fine. Like who cares about that one?
On this random side note, story time. I still remember the most embarrassing quiz test things that I had ever had going on. Thankfully, not for myself. A friend of mine in chemistry in high school had gotten I believe, I don't remember exactly if it was like, I might be like 2 or 3 points away. I believe he had gotten a 14 on a test. And we were like, oh, fuck, man, that's like, that's bad. Like, you damn near got almost everything wrong. And then on the next quiz, he got like an 8. And we were like, dude, why are you going down further? Like, this should have at least been a 50 on the next one. But we had a quiz one time in 4th grade, so give a little bit of credit. And it was, we were learning about like division at the time. So I don't remember how this teacher had like set this up, that how this would make any sense at all. But if you got the numerator right, you got like you got half of a point. And if you got the denominator right, you got half of a point. So each part was, each question was 1 point and 100 questions. And we were doing this thing where we were like trading back and forth. So it's like hand the paper to the person next to you and then they'll grade the paper because the teacher was being lazy and didn't want to do it manually herself. And I'm going through and I'm like, wrong. Oh, they got the one part right, but the other part wrong. This person got a 0.5. And I was just like, I think you need to check to see if I graded this right. Because like this person got quite literally every single 99.5 out of 100 wrong.
So wait, is the 0.5 for the name?
No credit for the name. Just for getting like the answer was like 3/4 and they got like 3/8 or something. And it was like, well, you got the 3. Okay. So that's good.
That's crazy.
So it's burned in my brain after that was what, 95, 96. So 30 years later, and I'm like, I remember how that guy got a 0.5. Anyway, Andrade. Is not the only person that was released from the company this week. Kiera Hogan was released from AEW after not wrestling since, I believe that was like a year or so since her last match. Let me try to look that up and just double check, because it might have been in ROH or something. More than likely it was in ROH before it was in AEW. She was last on ROH in a match against Ashley D'Amboise, who I haven't seen in a long time either, on, let's see, April 27th, 2024. So yeah, been a while. Last AEW match that she had specifically was on Collision in February of 2024, where Deonna Purrazzo beat her. So it's been a while since Kiera Hogan was there, and she pretty much fell off as soon as Jade Cargill was gone and they stopped the baddies thing. And it seems like they just reached a point where it was like, all right, well, we don't really care about having her around. She has said that she is more interested in using wrestling to be a platform for other things. I think she's on some reality show right now.
She is, but I also think that those comments were made a little
face saving.
Taking it out of context. Like, I think she meant like, I want to do other things. Like literally every other wrestler says now, where they're like, yeah, I want to one day do movies. I don't think that she's going to stop wrestling by any means.
No, I mean, she's been in a couple different other companies too. Like she was in like WoW, I think, as some other kind of character.
That's the first place you go. She was also tag team champions in TNA for quite a while, and I think
I mean,
she's
like,
still got.
while she was in AEW, she was also in WoW.
That seems odd to me, but I believe you.
I'm pretty sure that she was, if I remember
It might be
correctly.
the case that she filmed WoW stuff.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say she
then
might have
joined
filmed.
AEW.
Yeah,
I think it was,
But-
because when we were doing something with like some fantasy booking thing, I was looking up that information, and it was like, I think she was like actively still in there, and I'm gonna try to look it up while we're talking, but
it's hard to say though because WoW air is so out of order. But yeah, I think she's good. Like she definitely has some landing spots. She could always go back to TNA if she wants to. I think she can have a nice spot in the industry if that's what she wants.
I'm seeing a different WoW. I'm seeing Warriors of Wrestling when I'm looking up the other thing. I don't know. Point being,
Any thoughts on Kiera Hogan, Cal?
I mean, not particularly. Like, I don't like that's like the most memorable thing that she did when AEW was being like a side character for Jade Cargill, which does a role that was valuable for her at the time. But yeah, she was like she just didn't have the the ring skills or caliber to really stand out from the crowd. So yeah, it seems like it's a fair trade off. She's now doing that reality show on Zeus, and I imagine she'll go back on the indie circuit if she wants the opportunity to do so. So yeah, not really much to say on her really.
I thought she had my favorite thing she did was the Ring of Honor feud with Athena. Go figure, because Athena's tremendous. And I think, again, she could always find her way back into a major wrestling company if she chooses to.
I was not really tracking much of her stuff after the whole baddies thing, since I don't watch Ring of Honor, so I didn't see that feud with Athena. But she had some potential to her, and she had some interesting stuff going on. So, yeah, if she wants to pop up elsewhere, I would be shocked if she went to WWE. I don't think that WWE would probably be particularly interested in her, but I could be wrong. There's been plenty of times where I've been like, that person doesn't seem like they would fit. And, within a couple weeks or so, it ends up being like, hey, guess who's popping up in NXT or whatever. So maybe we see Kiera Hogan in Evolve, or maybe we see her in TNA again. She could very easily just go back into Impact or something. But
before we move on to another topic after that, like we didn't really talk about what's next for Andrade.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Because like again, the immediate thought is like, well, will he go back to AEW because like he's out now?
The next biggest company.
Yeah, and if it's a wellness violation, there's nothing like sinister beyond that point, then there wouldn't be any kind of real reason why he wouldn't go back to AEW, as long as he's now at a point where, okay, WWE just hasn't worked out again, and I probably will never go back there. So, well, let's you never say never with anything for wrestling, but like at least for the foreseeable future, he's not going back there. So AEW is the only landing spot that could give him the same sort of financial deal, and they'd probably be more grateful to having his in-ring ability and hide the weaknesses that WWE may have seen in his work. I think that it depends on what Andrade wants, because if he wants to be a top guy that he like thinks that he could be and believes that maybe he should be, then I think he has to go to CMLL.
I can see that.
Yeah. And if he's like, fine, like you said, like I've made my money now and I've made like I'm in a good, comfortable position where I don't really have to make like the most amount of money ever anymore, and I can just focus on doing the work that makes me happy. Obviously still get paid for it, but like good amount for it, but just do what makes me happy, or to be treated in the position that I think it would be, then I think go back to CMLL. Because go back to CMLL, you can still work AEW, you can still work New Japan, do those extra things as well. So yeah, I think that's probably if I was to predict, that would be where I think that he'll end up.
If he lives stateside, I imagine he'll just get an AEW deal, and then everything.
He might get one of those dual contracts.
Yeah.
That like Hechicero and other people have gotten, so he'll essentially.
And I mean, he can't stop tweeting MJF, so.
Yeah. Well, MJF is an CMLL world champion right now.
That is also true, yeah.
Yeah, CMLL stands out to me as like, if you were gonna say like, what would you bet on? That's where I would anticipate, and that could very well even be one of the reasons why things didn't work out in WWE. Maybe he has like an affinity for CMLL to the point that this AAA deal was him being like, I don't really like that, and I kind of want to show my loyalty to them, and I don't really want to be hanging around in that. Pure speculation. I don't fucking know, but I'd be shocked if like he comes back to AEW and is like super pushed. If that were the case, I would think that he would be basically in kind of the same level that he was in before, which again is not a bad level to be in, all things considered. But it would be kind of interesting if it ended up being that he goes to TNA. You know what I mean? And it ends up just being like, well, I don't really want to be on the main roster, but I guess I'll pop up there. Because if it would be a case where he would just be like, I want to be a world champion somewhere, that would be another spot that he could go where people could be like, I could see Andrade being the world champion in TNA. That wouldn't be like, wow, Andrade is going to be the world champion. He's not at that level the way that some other people would be. I could see it. That weird backup plan of TNA being a potential thing that people can explore is something that continues to be in the back of my mind, where like, wouldn't shock me for certain people. Still think that Karrion Kross might end up being there, but that's another
It's so
whole
funny
story.
that people care more about that now, even though that was literally always the case. It's just now that they have the working relationship, it feels like a backdoor deal.
Yeah. Like if you have an issue, then we can go to there. The way that like you might not be succeeding right now in NXT, but you can pop up and Evolve or something. Or you could be like Rich Holland, who doesn't really succeed that much right now in NXT. So you'll be in Evolve and in TNA, which is, kind of interesting.
Well, people describe it as a backdoor deal because there has to be some element of backdoor dealing in it, because like you're booking people that are like are contracted to WWE and they clearly have some certain plans for. So it's not like they can just go. It's not like, say, I don't know, somebody that works for AEW or any other promotion that then just goes to their local indie federation and they just book however they want to book. Yeah. I mean, there may be some input from like AEW in that regard. I'd say they don't want a guy like, I don't know, let's say Moxley's been world champion for 6 months. They probably don't want him losing at like a local Cincinnati show before his big title match. But like, yeah, maybe not do that, but it's a case of like there has to be with any promotion with that, it has to be some level of input. So that means that in that regard, there has to be some level of WWE or NXT influence on TNA's booking.
I mean, so, John Moxley's not going to lose to pretty boy Rick Anderson.
Hey, listen, if this was the era before overly televised events, stuff like that, and this was Ric Flair just going to his local, like, because he would lose or take draws and like double count and stuff like that with anybody, like your local like white meat babyface hero is just like, yeah, he's gonna not lose against the NWA world champion every single time.
Do you guys know Will Sasso?
What?
Will Sasso, the actor, comedian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah.
He does a great impression of a couple different wrestlers, and there was a clip I saw recently of him where he's making fun of Ric Flair, and he's like, my bit with Ric Flair is that Flair doesn't know what a big city is. And that like his old promos will be like, it doesn't matter where you come from or whatever. If you're from Chicago, Illinois, if you're from Los Angeles, California, or Roanoke, just it's like, yeah, it's classic Ric Flair. Just, we're gonna tear the house down here in Bemidji, as if it's this grandiose thing.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and I think of how CM Punk tells a story that when he wrestled Eddie Guerrero in like some local, like, Chicago indie or whatever, and Eddie was going back to WWE, and Eddie refused to beat him. He's like, I can't beat your champion. And it's like, even back then, it was still like, no, that's your guy. It doesn't matter if I'm wrestling on TV already and we're wrestling in front of 20 people. That's your guy.
Gotta preserve it. Yeah. Honor amongst thieves, I guess. I don't know. But so far, there hasn't been any indication of like specifically that this MJF thing is leading to something in particular. Like it hasn't been announced, but I would assume that, you know, they're trying to build something for either CMLL or AEW, or they like each other and they're buds and it's just like, hey, fuck you, pal. Haha, fuck you, pal. Could be the case. I don't know. I'm not aware of who like is actually friends with each other when it comes to that front. But I do want to see Andrade. It's not a matter of me being like, you know, fuck him, doesn't matter where he goes. But I do think that in the grand scheme of things, if he pops up here, he pops up there, yeah, it is what it is. I don't think that Andrade is like the hot ticket item that everybody should be scrambling to get, no matter what the price and no matter what the, you know, terms of the deal might be or something. But he's a good hand. So he'd be a valuable asset for almost any company that would want to have him in there, including WWE if they wanted to keep him. But maybe the price tag was too high. Maybe they realized that they had like an out for his contract or something, and they were like, you know what, we are really looking for something more for X amount of money. Yeah, let's go back to the Monday Night Raw stuff. Let's just kind of, you know, go through the TV stuff as it was. We don't really do break down much when it comes to like LA Knight, Jey Uso. It's that feud's going on the same. What it is. John Cena's afraid of Brock. Okay, same deal. Bayley had returned and helped Lyra Valkyria fight off Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, and then decided to start hugging everybody ringside. Later on, there was this really kind of shitty backstage segment where Lyra was trying to like thank Bayley for doing that, but Bayley was now in her heel mode. It was a little over the top. It was a little ridiculous, but I liked the hugging part. I thought that was a little refreshing.
Everybody needs a hug.
Hugs are great.
I wonder if this was planned pre AJ Lee coming in, or if this was planned because AJ Lee is coming in, and let's just call a spade. There was a chant for therapy on last week's episode of Raw. We know Bayley's going to want to work with AJ to be an easy way to get there, and I think it actually is a bit refreshing, because the one criticism I've had of Bayley since losing the hugger gimmick was, all right, you now just are a person on show. You lost any semblance of character. So this should be fun.
Very much agreed. Any thoughts on it, Cal?
I've not watched it, so I didn't know what you're talking about beforehand.
Any thoughts on hugs?
Don't touch me.
Too bad. If I were me in person, I'm hugging you, motherfucker.
I carry a knife.
We got to go out sometime, somehow. There's worse ways to go. There was, you know, again, like, we don't need to break down, like, Penta beat Kofi Kingston. Okay, whatever. Matches are good or they're not. And,
Whoa. The important thing there is that Phoenix is without a tag team partner, and Penta just beat Kofi Kingston. Let's get some Lucha Brothers on WWE television, shall we?
It's more than past time for those to shack up and be a proper tag team again. I liked the face-to-face between AJ, Punk, and Becky and Seth. Punk has since gone on record in saying that AJ Lee is erroneous in her assessment that they might all have a four-way kiss at Wrestlepalooza. He's like, I'm over here, my wife doing an interview right now, and she said that that's not going to happen. I'm not going to kiss them and whatever. So we have the hugger gimmick. We got a kissing gimmick.
Bringing that level of silliness to this show.
going straight into it already, you know?
Yeah, because there's a subsection of people that are like, wouldn't it be great if it just ended with them all kissing? And I'm glad that AJ's there just making it weird.
I mean, that's what she did in her run before, so, you know,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you? There was the backstage segment again with Finn Balor being upset about El Grande Americano being associated with Dominic Mysterio, who, by the way, had won the AAA Mega Championship at Worlds Collide. It's really the only thing to talk about with Worlds Collide, which was a fun enough show as it was. But Dominic Mysterio is now both the Intercontinental and Mega Champion, so he is calling himself the Mega Intercontinental Champion, as you would do. And I am all for it. We were talking about that beforehand, like hoping that Dom wins that. That was very cool.
Could at least like call yourself like the Mega Continental Champion, because that flows off the tongue better than the Mega Intercontinental Champion.
He should just
the Mega Continental Champion.
Gotta get that Inter.
Continental Champion.
I mean, I saw like the bits. Well, I saw like some highlights from the match at Worlds Collide. Obviously, the crowd absolutely hated Vikingo, as pretty much every crowd has grown to in the last few months. So
crazy.
You know, the kind of the ending shot of El Grande Americano helping Dominic Mysterio win, it kind of lost its impact when it's like, oh, this big heel move that's got this massive babyface reaction. Yeah, so I don't think they can. I don't know what they really can do with Vikingo at this point, because I think they're gonna have to turn him heel, but I just don't think a guy that size, like part of it, because like I don't want to say like, oh, guys that small comedy works, because like there are guys that are smaller, that Leo Rush and people along those lines that can do a heel thing, but they can't do like top heel work really. You can't become like the biggest heel in the company. I mean, maybe you can, but it's like, I don't know. He can't change his style. He can't become like this guy's gonna all the other high flyers in AAA, and I'm gonna be the one that grounds them. That's not gonna work for the Kingo. So I mean, maybe he can make it work, but yeah, I just don't know what they really can do with him at this point.
Maybe just go ahead and say, all right, just go to WWE. Like, be on the roster.
Yeah, because they wouldn't care as much. Yeah,
yeah,
because they wouldn't react in the same way as the AAA audience would. It would mean that he basically, because unless obviously he goes to AAA, back to do AAA shows, that he just is treated as a heel at that point. Because fundamentally, if he went to WWE on those pretenses and then went back to do a AAA show, like, you might have riots on your hands, like that type of. I don't say in some ways that's good heat. In other ways, it's like, yeah, there's good heat, and then there's like somebody coming up with a shank in the middle of the parking lot at some point. So you have to worry with that a little bit.
Maybe they're just going to be hoping that, like, you can put him on the show, have him do the flips and stuff, and then people will not care as much if he's not the champion, you know? It might be like, all right, well, now that the guy isn't champion anymore, now we can cheer him again because he's not the chosen one or whatever. But then again, that depends, I guess, on partially just like how invested they are in AAA. Like, they are business partners. Not business partners, they own the company now. So, like, you got to assume that they wouldn't want to take one of their biggest people off of that roster. But at the same time, if that guy is being treated like, fuck this guy, we don't want to see him, all right, then take him off of there and put him on Raw or SmackDown, and then swap in somebody from Raw or SmackDown that gets a better reaction, and no harm, no foul. You wait a little while and then it all works out. But it seems like they're building, and I'm not at all surprised, and I would be doing the exact same thing, that they are trying to build up the idea that Rey is going to be the guy that potentially dethrones Dom. And Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio for the AAA Mega Championship at some future Worlds Collide, Triple Mania, whatever kind of deal, is arguably the biggest match that they could possibly do. So I don't fault them for that at all. I think that is like probably what they should do. Rey is still not cleared to compete yet, so that wouldn't happen immediately from this, but I'm cool with Rey Mysterio checking that box off and winning that championship that I believe he's never won before, and having that be like one of his last big important things that he's done, because realistically the guy's not going to win the world championship in WWE, and it doesn't matter if Rey Mysterio were to win the Intercontinental Championship because he's won it before. He's already a Hall of Famer, so it's not like, wow, it's checking off the last thing on his list like Sheamus would be. People would go, oh, okay, so Rey's the champion. There are plenty of other people that could be Intercontinental Champion. And, somebody like an Ilya Dragunov coming back and winning that means far more than Rey Mysterio dethroning Dom. Dethroning, for anybody that's curious. It's sounds a little bit strange, but Rey and Dom on like a WWE show for the AAA Mega Championship could also happen. I think it would probably make more sense if it was an actual AAA show. But I like Dom as champ for this. Dom's great. 3 cheers for Dom.
Continues to be one of my actual favorite people to watch when I am watching WWE.
Consistently. Like, he's always fun. Whether it's a backstage segment where he's just kind of like, oh, guys, come on, fuck you. Or if he's doing his like heel shtick in a match itself, Dom is great.
So I got a question. What's up with the El Grande Americano doing the Spider-Man point on Raw?
The El Grande Americanos?
Yeah, what's the deal there? Why is there a fourth man in the mask now?
Oh, they've had the fourth man. Tyler Bate did it a couple weeks ago.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? What are we doing?
But how long have they made the story about the fact that there are multiple ones and that they're now like interacting with each other rather than just, someone different is just wearing the mask that week?
I think it was Wago. I don't remember for sure. Somebody in a group chat had said, man, this would be such a great, fun, silly Survivor Series tag from back in the old days. You just get, 4 or 5 El Grande Americanos against other people. And I'm like, yeah.
Like when Mabel and Mo and people were just like, I'm going to be Doink.
Right. Or, the King's Court and everybody is just, doing that kind of shtick or... That would be fun. I would love to see some kind of El Grande Americanos against whoever it might be, whatever the 4 or 5 teams. I don't know. Probably just be LWO. But like
they're doing this kind of story in AEW because there's now a second hologram.
Yeah.
So they're
reflection.
doing
it's El Clone, right?
El Clone. I remember it now. So so they're doing like the old Sin Cara Azul versus Sin Cara word you probably shouldn't say online. One.
It just means black.
I know, but like I just worry occasionally that I'm just going to slip at the wrong moment. And
Negro.
Yeah. So I think that so they're just doing that gimmick as well. So maybe this is now just the age of the multiple luchador gimmick where multiple people have the same gimmick at the same time.
We need Booker T to be able to tell the difference between a clone and hologram. What was his rationale? It was like, oh, I saw like a mark under his boot or some bullshit.
No, it was look at the eyes. You can see it in his eyes.
Booker T is fantastic. I fucking love that guy. He's so ridiculous.
Yeah, this is like from more like last week's NXT, but didn't he like come short just saying that he wanted to fuck Tiffany Stratton on commentary?
We didn't talk about this last week. That man clearly said, "I'm gonna pop my dick," and everybody like caught it to the point where Vic Joseph, maybe it was on SmackDown or something, but they were doing commentary somewhere, and Vic said neck, and he said it with such emphasis and a wink and a nod because he understood that when Booker T said, "I'm gonna pop my neck," that everybody heard dick.
Right.
and like they're so funny together.
Credit where it's due. I mean, Tiffany's looking better now than she ever has in my mind. But obviously, if he would have been like, "Oh man, go fuck her," then it would be like, "Yo, okay, fuck, relax a little bit." Booker's great.
Right after he was going crazy for Stephanie, and then Tiffany comes out, "I'm gonna pop my dick." It's like, what?
One of the El Grande Americanos would be pretty upset about that.
Yeah, Pete Dunne.
Yeah.
He wants to pop his dick for him.
Yeah. Not finished with you until I'm done. That's why I got his name.
He did the finger snap thing with his dick.
I mean, people are into some different things here and there. I don't know.
Yeah. No judgment here.
Yeah, somebody will pay top dollar for that. And I don't mean AJ Francis. 70 for Kiera beat Kairi Sane. Rusev, I forgot to mention, Rusev came up to Dom and was like, "Hey, I'm the next Intercontinental Champion," which that was kind of funny. Not the feud that I was anticipating that Rusev would go into next. So a little bit surprised about that. But sure, why not?
They might just have him beat Dom.
It could be.
You know? Like, they might just have him do it.
Maybe it's just like Rusev gets that Intercontinental title, we give him that run, he drops it to somebody like a Dragunov.
And then Sheamus beats him. I don't want Sheamus to do a lot of things, but I do want him to hold this Intercontinental title at least once.
I fully agree. I really hope that he wins that. It'd be really a shame if after all this time he doesn't. And it just ends up being like, it sucks that never came around after the multiple years that we had the perfect opportunity to do it, where it didn't matter, that we couldn't have not putting it on you or something, you know?
And if this is just a fanboy thing, that's one thing, but like multiple years of acknowledging that's the only thing James needs to do.
Right.
Hey there. He needs to win this. Like,
the one and only thing that really matters left in his career. Nah.
I would like to see him win that title.
Same here. Let's go over to NXT Homecoming. This was a fun show. They started off with the video package with some of the old school stuff. They had the old school intro and, you know, the graphics and the roar of the crowd theme. Triple H comes out, thanks everybody, talks about how special Full Sail is and whatnot. Shawn Michaels comes out, gloats that like, well, now that I run NXT, we're taking it to a whole new level. And they start kind of like getting a little tense. And William Regal comes out and goes, "All right, well, you know what? The only way to solve this, War Games."
I appreciate the fact that it was so asinine. Like,
it's ridiculous.
For 2 seconds, I was like, wait, are they doing... Well, Survivor Series is coming out, and I'm like, wait a minute, did he just say War Games? Just say War Games? Like, you have an actual fucking War Games show. What are you doing?
And
that was fun, though.
Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss came out and were like, okay, well, you know, never mind what William Regal is saying. Let's talk about how the women's division kicks ass in NXT. It was a little bit awkward, a little bit clunky, but it was a fun segment. I liked it.
And they had to keep shutting up the crowd because they were like, we would love for you to cheer all night, but we got to get going.
Yeah, we're running out of time. This is a 2-hour show. CW loves to pull us immediately, so we can't
CW will fucking pull them.
Right. We got some important things to get into. We can't just have it immediately be like mid-match and then cut that off. I was getting a little bit worried at one point that they were going long enough that maybe like one of the matches might get pulled or something. Because we've had that happen before where it's been like something was scheduled and then they end up doing like, you know, an attack that stops the match from really even happening or whatever. And yeah, I mean, they ended up balancing out this card well enough. But that was cool seeing William Regal do the War Games thing. Bliss and Flair retained the tag titles over the culling, so they are going to be fighting Alba Fire and Chelsea Green tonight on SmackDown, which of course they announced ahead of time, so it was pretty obvious that it was going to happen, but that was fun too. They had like the whole thing, Izzy and Charlotte standing opposite to each other to be like, you know, here's the two tall blondes from NXT, and then main roster, and then you got like Tatum and Bliss doing the whole like here's the creepy little dark pixie girl and all that with the dolls. That's what you should be doing. That's great.
Yeah.
A little bit weirder some of the other things that happened throughout the night, though. I was surprised about the backstage thing with Zaruka, where Solruka and Zarya were arguing over losing their match from last week. Lainey Reed comes over, and I understand this because Lainey Reed and Candice LeRae are going to have a match on next week's show. They're going to end up, whenever that fights Solruka. So it was like, hey, you should be concerned about me because I'm going to beat you for the women's title, women's speed title and whatever. But then Shayna Baszler comes around, tells everybody to scram, and then gives the most baby face, you guys have a special friendship thing to Solruka and Zarya, where she was like really invested in like, if there's one thing I've learned, you got to keep your friends kind of a thing. And I'm like, that's Shayna spot? Instead of Shayna being like, I'll fuck you up or something.
I understood that because what's the last thing Shayna really did of note was, either, the PFC where her friends got fired, or the Ronda Rousey thing where she beat up her friend and then her friends were gone. Like, you know what I mean? So I understood her being like, yeah, I kind of went out without any friends because of the way things happened, and you guys should not do that.
Don't tell Michin. They're still real close. She's like, I've got no friends. And Michin's like, hey, the hell, I film videos with you constantly.
Michin's too busy trying to get the women's U.S. title.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. They had the Trick Mellow Gang and DIY match. Miz comes out and interferes and helps Carmelo Hayes win that. So the perfect booking when it comes to that. Makes perfect sense.
All right, so I have thoughts on this because first of all, up until the Miz interference, fun match.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the hell out of this. Second of all, I think I continue to believe this is a soft launch of Trick Mellow Gang as a TV tag team.
I think
Third
so too.
All, and we're gonna talk about this throughout the night. I fucking hate this thing where WWE's just like, hey, it's homecoming. So we can give you a recognizable theme.
Yeah.
We can give Tommaso Ciampa No One Will Survive. We can give Johnny Gargano Rebel Heart because it's homecoming. What? Why aren't you doing that already? Like,
there's at least one report that came out this week that Def Rebel's contract might be ending soon, and that they might not be renewing it. Which I would hope so, because
it's long since been said that WWE knows the way that fans view Def Rebel.
And they've had some good songs, but, the track record's not great. And when you also look at more of the information, then you're like, oh, okay, so you basically used AI to rewrite that, and you basically phoned it in here by taking this production theme and then just tweaking the first 10 seconds of it. Or for some reason, you can't keep like Gallus's theme from CFO Money, so you do the most basic redo of that the way that they used to do that in WCW back in the day, or, whatever. And then it's just a downgrade, then I don't see the point in necessarily keeping Def Rebel around. But you mentioned that. There was later on at one point, Lexis King comes out to the ring and he starts saying about how next week he's going to have a lights out match with Miles Bourne. So the blindfold thing now going into lights out. I don't know what that's necessarily going to entail, but Finn Balor came out, pure babyface, and doing the demon thing, not the like face paint and stuff, but like the old school Finn Balor theme song and all.
That they should probably actually bring back because everybody loves arm movements and babyface things. But this one really pissed me off.
That one I think was way worse than the DIY thing.
First of all, why the fuck are you babyface?
Right.
Second of all, again, if you could just do this, he's on Raw. People would at least want to see him at the same level AJ Styles is at right now in that IC title picture. But dude, what are you doing? And there was zero explanation. It was just, hey, I'm NXT Finn Balor again. I was like, what?
Yeah, he has nothing to do with Miles Bourne or Lexus King. So that one, more than anything,
And if you're
felt
wondering
like
the connection was Lexus said he was the homecoming king. Balor's the homecoming prince.
yeah,
That
he had
was
that little
he had the little
rally towel or whatever.
Yeah,
which was like that was done in a way that was pretty like, come on, it's ridiculous. He's just like, and I got this merch.
and then Miles Bourne got to do the arms with and I'm like, what? Why? Why did any of this? Does Monday Night Raw was this just a Bizarro World show where it was just like everybody's having fun? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
It's
Yeah.
a non-canon event, essentially.
Yeah, like that's actually the way they treated a lot of this, including, if you don't mind me interjecting here,
Go ahead.
the fact that all night they're going, TNA Superstar is so mad. They're so mad. And literally everybody in TNA was tweeting. By the way, this helped me realize a lot of TNA people are just people that were working in WWE specifically who have strong ties to NXT, whether it's Aiden English or Dan Brooke or Mustafa Ali. And, I'm going, okay, they're going to fight.
Mhm.
They're going to arrive in Full Sail because it's not the Performance Center. They'll arrive in Full Sail and all hell will break loose and it'll be like, oh, what a crazy night. Wow. That didn't happen, did it, Tony?
No, it didn't. I wrote up 2 versions of that article. And it didn't happen. So then I found myself going, all right, well, I'm going to save that for next week. Because something else that happened in here was they had the Grayson Waller effect segment with Obafemi and Ricky Saints, where Trick Williams interrupted again to be like, I'm still trying to get that NXT championship back that I had lost at the beginning of this year. And at the beginning of last year. Last year? No.
Oh, this year.
This year, yeah. What am I thinking?
Hey, have they done a one-on-one match between these two, which I feel like they've been teasing since last year?
They've been obsessed with these triple threats.
Yeah,
more
and they
than
haven't.
anything.
That's crazy. Okay.
And Grayson Waller, who I guess has booking power, is like, you know what? How about next week? I'm going to book, again, how does he book it? I'm going to book the NXT champion against the TNA champion for both belts. And then the winner is going to go on to have to defend against Ricky Saints at No Mercy. So we're going to get one of 2 scenarios here. Either once again, the TNA champion is the NXT champion, the way that they did with JC Jane, and they just are splitting the difference, or they're setting up a title for title match that's going to end in a DQ with TNA attacking during that match.
I fully expect the latter.
I do as well. And then that can lead to either a triple threat at the next event, or it could be like, okay, well then we're just going to hold off on the Trick Williams thing, and it's still just going to be Obafemi versus Ricky Saints for the NXT championship, because we've got the whole thing with Mike Santana, and that would be very strange for it to be like, you know what, how about Trick? Let's put it this way. If they plan on having the TNA and NXT champion be the same person, I don't know how they get rid of Obafemi and Ricky Saints, put this on Trick Williams, or mess it around between the 3 of those, and then potentially also give that to Mike Santana. I can't imagine that being the case. If we're in a situation where it goes Trick beats Oba, and then Trick retains over Ricky, and then Trick loses both belts to Mike Santana over the course of like 3 weeks, that's going to be a whirlwind. Or if it's like, okay, they all go to Ricky, or they all go to Oba, or they like, all that seems wildly kind of just bouncing around like crazy. Stranger things have happened though, so it's not like it's impossible for this to be the case. Look at what they've done with the women's title, for instance.
Yeah, that was pretty weird that it turned out to be like, hey, JC beats Masha, Ash beats JC at an NXT show, Now she's just fighting Masha again, even though
with
Masha's
Indy
lost a few times.
as the special guest referee.
Because Indy's waiting at Bound for Glory. And by the way, everyone, sans Masha, all NXT background. So more and more, I'm looking at this like, was this a lateral move? Like, what is happening here? But no, I think they should have had the invasion at the homecoming because TNA looks like a bunch of bitches. They just do. Like, they look stupid. You could have done a thing where you're like, well, Ash by Elegance is here and she's got a lot of history in this building as well. Hey, so is Cedric. Hey, so is Mustafa Ali. Hey, you could have had somebody take out Book and then Vic Joseph scurries off and then you've got, former Aiden English and former Tom Phillips just taking over headsets for 2 seconds. You could have done something where it would have been like, that was fun.
But and it would make sense for these people that were in NXT in Full Sail, like Dana Brooke, to be like, I'm upset that I didn't get invited here and I'm going to invade during there. But then again, that also is kind of funny if it's like the most important thing in TNA right now is them being like, hey, how come I'm not in NXT?
Well, that those were the messages. They were like, how come I didn't get invited? It's like, work for TNA.
Like, yeah, but do I really? By the way, I saw a thing from Baron Corbin being like, hey, what the hell? I didn't make it into the video package. Mojo Rawley did. And then I guess somebody who like did the video package had gone back to him and said like, yeah, but he's, sitting in a camel clutch. And he's like, yeah, this doesn't fucking matter. You got in there. So kind of funny. The idea that he's just kind of like, it doesn't matter if Mojo's getting his ass kicked in that clip. Mojo Rawley doesn't deserve to be there for Baron Corbin, which I agree on that front.
Arguably, Baron Corbin's most overtime in wrestling was
that was great.
The NXT thing.
That and the Bull Dempsey thing. Remember
That's
that?
Crazy. That's a statement.
So we're gonna get some kind of an invasion, and whether that happens next week or if it happens at No Mercy or something, they're setting up that in one way or another. So keep your eyes peeled when it comes to that. Obviously, Victory Road is happening soon, so we'll talk about that on the hot tags next week and give some, generic predictions when it comes to that front. But more matches being announced down the line, more coverage of that next week. It's not the pay-per-views that are happening now. Damian Priest had a little backstage thing with Tavion Heights, who is going to face Ethan Page for the NXT North American Championship because Ethan Page retained over Tyler Breeze. It's good to see Tyler Breeze back in action. Like that.
However, another stupid segment of, hey, Tavion, let me tell you about my time winning the North American Championship. I had a party with women in a hot tub. Anyway, I talked to Ava, and you got a title match in the face. What the fuck?
It's like, you remind me of a young me.
Like,
let me tell you about me.
But yeah, I hope Tavion wins. He probably won't, but I would like to see him do so.
Yeah, I don't think that he will. But again, we'll talk about that next week when we get our rundown for that, because that'll be one of our other things that we do. We'll probably have that recorded after NXT next week, because that's what we've been typically doing. So if you're interested in NXT No Mercy predictions, stay tuned a couple days from now when we get into that front. There was a Sami Zayn thing, giving a pep talk to Javon Evans and fighting with Josh Briggs for a little bit. Charlie Dempsey told Brent Sinclair, I think I'm just going to leave and go to Japan for a month. And then they had the Bobby Roode and Joe Hendry pop up and do their little thing. Joe Hendry was in the opening video package.
I think he just works there now.
There has to be some sort of deal.
But the wrestlers have pretty much reported, in fact, of like he is still technically contracted to TNA, but they're all just in the period of like planning now that he's going to WWE, so they're kind of phasing him out of the TNA side of things.
It makes sense. I mean, clearly that's where everybody, I mean, TNA probably not, but clearly that's where WWE and Joe Hendry want to take the next step. But for me, I was just a little bit taken aback by like that they actually put him in the input, blah, 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 words, opening intro. Because that's like an extra step. I would think that would be one of those things where it's like, well, we can't do that quite yet because he's technically not. But we don't know how their contracts work right now. Like there could be some kind of actual WWE deal going on. And, good for him if that's the case. But they were referring to him as basically like, well, now that you're in NXT, you might as well, whatever. So it's like, okay. Where there's no question about it now. He clearly is not sticking around in TNA. And there was another segment that happened over here. Montez Ford just saying Dark State should watch because somebody's going to paint a big target on their back. And then that led to just Cutler James being like, hey, and then it's like, no, this is not do that.
I like right that the gimmick is now make sure this man never talks because he'll say something sus and we got to get him out of here.
Happens right at the same time that it's like confirmation that he's dating Adriana Rizzo. So it's like, by the way, all this in your butt stuff is popping up there, I guess, too. But 6-woman tag, the Tiffany Stratton match. Tiffany Stratton was pulled from that match and Lyra Valkyrie replaced her. Another note about Stratton is that she may or may not end up wrestling at Wrestlepalooza because it's still not confirmed that she could be cleared to compete. But a triple threat match between Stratton, Jade Cargill, and Nia Jax was on the t-shirt for this. So they at least had plans for that to be the case. And that's not shocking at all considering what happened on SmackDown last week. There was a Jade Cargill and Tiffany Stratton title match and ended in a double DQ or double count out. Nia Jax went on the attack because for some reason Nia Jax has to continue to be on this feud over and over and over again. She cannot get away from her. So tonight on SmackDown, we're either going to get confirmation that match is set up or we're going to get zero mention of it whatsoever and have it be like, okay, well, that's then confirmation that Stratton is not cleared to compete. And maybe they end up doing something like, okay, well, now it's Jax against Jade and it's a number one contenders match or something. But I hope that that's not the case. I would hope that they would just wait. I don't really want to see this to begin with. But keep an eye out on that. We might get a new Wrestlepalooza match added to that. I thought NXT Homecoming was a lot of fun, though. And I'd like to see more of that. Like, not necessarily the same gimmick and whatever, but that same level of excitement. They have it in them to do something fun like that. So do it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good show. I shout out to the ending of the 6-woman tag, which was literally just Stephanie and Rhea hit the devil's kiss together, and Booker T and the entire crowd is just I think it's hysterical that like they both point to Booker. It's a whole thing, and kudos to the man for coming up with that. But I actually like this team better than Tiffany because it felt like Tiffany would have been a little tacked on. Whereas like with these three, they look like, like that thing we always fantasy book, the alt chicks, This is basically your alt chicks versus your mean bitches. Which is what we book all the time.
It works.
But hopefully Tiffany's okay, and hopefully she does wrestle at Wrestlepalooza. Don't want to see her lose the belt at Wrestlepalooza, though.
I'd be okay with it, but I don't necessarily want to see it. It's like, if it happens, it's not going to upset me. If it doesn't, it's not particularly going to upset me either. Speaking
of Wrestlepalooza, by the way, McAfee has said on his ESPN show that John Cena and Brock Lesnar starting the show. So
makes sense. That. Brock just heads on out immediately after his match and flies out of the arena and doesn't show up for the rest of it. Yeah, that's his MO.
I think they might try to start it, but maybe do a quick angle, like maybe Brock jumps him backstage or something. Because Because if that doesn't headline, what headlines?
It could
Cody
be the
and
AJ Lee
Drew?
match. It could be Cody and Drew.
I guess we'll see.
I think either of those make perfect sense for a headliner. I mean, technically, it could also be the crowning of a new women's world championship, but we know that that's not going to main event.
It could actually. That would be interesting.
They don't care enough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In terms of optics, it'd be interesting.
Yeah. It should, because it should be on par with every other world championship and all. But the past month of them being like, fucking just whatever, shut up. That goes to show that they don't really care enough. Which is a shame, because it is the, one of the top 2 women's championships. But yeah, Becky, easily distracted when it comes to that front. Let's move over to September to Remember and talk about the AEW combo show that we had. Dynamite and Collision both airing back to back. 1 hour of Collision instead of the usual 2. And as you could expect, another good, solid show with some good matches going on with it. One of my highlights of the whole night was a comment from Taz that I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget about when it came to talking about this on the hot tags. The Bobby Lashley and Toliona match. During that, I think it was at the beginning of it that this ended up happening. When they haven't gotten like super into anything yet. I'm trying to find the quote specifically right now. Let me see. Did I put this in the group chat of the 3 of us?
I don't know what you're talking about, so presumably not.
Maybe I didn't. Let me try to find it. It was the Lion quote. Let's see. Facebook's got to make this harder than it should be. Okay, I found it. So this is the direct quote, because I wrote it out because it was how great it was. This is like one big lion against like a giant lion that's even bigger, or maybe not. It's just 2 big, nasty people about to battle. And then Excalibur just went, well said, Taz. It just
sounds about right.
It sounds like a little kid just kind of being like, yeah, it's like a big lion against like a giant lion that's bigger, but maybe not. And
there's that meme video of the kid trying to talk about what his dreams.
Oh, like. Exactly.
Yeah.
Have you ever, if you would, so much that he could do anything. That's Taz. Yeah. It's so good. I love that. That cracked me the fuck up during that. But this was a pretty great show.
Before we get into the breakdown of the matches, I just want to give another shout out to a great thing on commentary that aired on Triller, which was during the Hechicero Josh Alexander against Top Flight match. Bryan Danielson's like, I just love technical wrestling. I love me some Hechicero. Yo soy Hechicero, right, Don? And Don's like, hey, you ever wrestle somebody like him? And Bryan goes, I wrestled Hechicero.
Yeah.
And he and Excalibur just start laughing. And Don's just like, yeah, but I wasn't with him at the time, right? Fun, stupid banter on commentary. For a company that takes its wrestling very seriously, they don't take themselves seriously, and I love that.
I have Yosoi Hechicero down as my almost guaranteed at this point favorite catchphrase of the year. I fucking love when he comes out and does that. It's so good.
It is a good one. Yeah.
And the fact that he keeps adding more onto it and dragging it out even longer makes it even better, because it tickles that, like, I was going to say it tickles that asshole. That's not right. That, like, jerk kind of character thing that I like a lot. And when he, like, Hechicero is fun to watch enough in the ring as it is, but I look forward to Hechicero coming out even just for Don Callis before anything else.
It has to be said about what we go into, like, recapping the show, is that clearly this London, Ontario crowd has had a big impact on Tony Khan. instead of like saying, yeah, we're definitely coming back like every single year, do like try and do big shows here and everything along those lines. Like, so it's quite good that like clearly London, just as a general term, seems to be like an AEW soft spot. So come to us in the UK and then also go back to Canada. And if that means like, you know, less shows in some places that, you know, don't have very good crowds, then I'm all for that.
Man, fuck them. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck those crowds. Yes, they did the contract signing segment early on where they didn't really have any, you know, it's just your general contract signing. No major like bust ups in that thing because they saved that until the end of the show, which I thought was smart.
Yeah. Big reveal in there though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The twist
the
on the
title
whole.
Would be, the TNT title would be he'd be stripped of it if anybody in Don Callis' family gets involved.
Yeah,
which is a nice touch.
You know, that's a great way to make it even more of a reason to be like, all right, well then, you know, nobody does actually get involved if like there's a referee taken out or something like that. So, you know,
I really hope that's the case.
The way that they justified it with like Hangman Page being like, hey, I want you to reach this level that we all can like, you know, kind of assume that you're going to reach, but we want you to do that for real and to not be, you know, crapping out and just being a heel. I like that. Good touch.
Moxley Roderick Strong again. It was a good match in general, but I guess the moment of the match was Roderick Strong having a stare down with his wife at ringside, like him being on the opposite side. So yeah, that was quite a fun thing of them just having to like stare each other down. It's like, oh, like you go home with each other every night, and yet you're now in this situation where she's having to back the other guy up. So yeah, that was fun, and obviously Moxley get the win before going into the match with Darby Allin at All Out. There was a big backstage confrontation. Like we just saw an argument or heard an argument between MJF and Tony Khan about how Tony Khan was upset about MJF trying to circumnavigate the not using his contract at Forbidden Door, and then MJF complaining about him, like saying, "Oh, there's like you finally decided to put the big boy boss pants on, and you're the one who's to blame when there's another Briscoe in the dirt."
Yeah, like
that. Yeah, that's what he does. Obviously, the famed lion versus slightly bigger lion match between Bobby Lashley and Toa Leona.
Another good, like, you know, back and forth, good match, good showing, even in a loss for Toa Leona. So you can't complain about that one.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for him to go against a guy that's well established, and you know he's a tag team guy, but it was good showing for him.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the beginning of the Cope and Cage and FTR segment, but I liked the end of it. They had
good. You go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'll let you finish off.
So they had established that they were not allowed to fight with each other, and that there would be $100,000 fine for anybody that actually like broke that. Which, okay, perfect enough reason to not have them just fight with each other. But I liked that Christian was just like, you know what? I don't fucking care. I'm rich. And then just started fighting with them. It's like, all right, good. You know, I like that.
So a couple things about that. So obviously I like the brawl at the end because they just started beating the hell out of security and everyone else as well. It does feel like it's got a lot of heat, this match. And it's been revealed it's going to be the one that's opening the show. Which makes sense. It was the same like Cope and Cage opened the Forbidden Door show, so it makes sense they're opening this as well in front of the Toronto crowd. So Dax Harwood broke his nose.
Oh, he did?
In the brawl.
Ooh.
So, but he said he's still competing on the show, so I imagine he'll have some sort of face protection on, or something of that ilk. But I mean, that's what he says. He might just be, professional liars and all that stuff. But that's legally saying he was bleeding a lot from the nose after the brawl. So, and I love the fact because they interviewed Cope recently in the build up to this show, and he talks about how it was kind of important for them that they maintain the Christian heel character while still being in this tag team, even though it's like he's still a heel, but that's the whole where like he's our asshole, that kind of terminology comes from, because they really wanted to make sure they maintained his character and didn't deviate from it.
Which is good, because when people turn babyface, then they just suddenly start being like a completely different character. Then they're not as fun anymore. People like the heel character, and then look at MJF. Like, that wasn't quite as fun having him as a babyface, where he stopped being an asshole. If the asshole gimmick is what people like, then keep that going for Christian. He could be a jerk and still be fighting the heels. Confuses the hell out of people in the heel and face thing, but I don't track that when it comes to AEW because it's too hard. So, plenty of people very confused about like the Finn Balor thing, for instance. I don't blame them.
That's just him just changing character for one night before going back to things. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Rob?
I thought the segment was fantastic. I think these four have done a wonderful job at building real intensity, and it much like the Christian thing, where they could have hugged and the next week been out there with kazoos and streamers. They've gone out of their way to go, fuck your tag team dream match, we're gonna fight. And I kind of respect that. I wasn't on board, and then this segment kind of pulled me back around. And I also like that Christian kind of seems like he's getting on the same page now. It's slowly happening to where, okay, I think they're at a place of mutual respect where they understand each other and they're going to continue teaming moving forward. But this should be a damn good fight.
I love this next segment, because this is exactly what I said should happen after last week's show, is that the Bucks have got money again, and they're going crazy with it. Like, they showed something like Nick Jackson blowing money on the slot machines from being the Elite, and they had like just handing Renee Paquette some money behind the scenes, having tons and tons of pyro coming out, having their own entrance theme back, and all that stuff. So yeah, eventually they're going to lose out on that money, and then they'll be back to where they are. But right now they're just enjoying the fact that they've got money again after last week's All-Star tag team match. And then they beat the Batman Gang, as we expected, for them to qualify for the tag title ladder match. So that should be fun to have them in it. Have the Descarado versus Beast Mortis match. And this is like a very rare occurrence, because this is one of those rare moments where Tony puts in the group chat something about an AEW match.
Yeah, I was actually genuinely when he was like, "This fucking match is good," and of course they
as soon as they said that, they botched something. So I was like, "Fuck you."
At the end of the day, it is a CMLL match, so there are going to be botches in there every now and again. But yeah, as I say, it's just a fun match between two luchadors. Like, Beast Mortis is one of the best bases in pro wrestling, and Pascal Dorada just flipped around him. He's still quite a young guy, so he's still going to make some mistakes here and there. And like, Mortis isn't like the most polished worker in the world. But yeah, you have Pascal Dorada get the victory as we expected. Then you had Okada and Takeshita have a bit of a stare down at ringside, and then Dorada just dives on top of Okada to end the segment. So
yeah, very good match.
Very good match. Yeah. Then there's a little spotlight on Tony Storm when you had like her being flanked by Chris Statlander and Jamie Hayter before Tekla comes out for her no holds barred match with Queen Amanata. Just your basic Tony Storm promo and hyping up the other women involved.
And we're gonna bitches shave your bushes. Was it something like that?
I think it was something along those lines. Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep track of all the innuendo at this point.
This kind of convinced me. I'm firm. I think Stat's going over.
I am starting to think that too. Just seems a little bit too like, yeah, she probably joins the Death Riders and wins. I can see that more than anything else now.
There's a good chance of that happening. I still think there's a good chance of Tekla as well, because she won this match from Amanata. It wasn't at the sort of level of like the very peaks of the women's hardcore matches, but it's like these two have just been beating the crap out of each other pretty much since Tekla joined AEW. So they just went out there and did that same thing, just with weapons this time. And then you had basically all of the women's division get involved towards the end in the big brawl before the tailgate match at All Out, and obviously the women's title 4-way as well. Jet Speed beat Killswitch and Kip Sabian, because Killswitch and Kip Sabian really shouldn't be a tag team. because they just don't like each other. Yeah, that was predictable.
I'm assuming that that's a breakup now, but it might not necessarily be like an official one.
It's one of those things that I fear it might be one of those things where they're clearly broken up, but they'll just keep teaming for a little while until they have the official breakup. You know, how certain both in AEW and WWE, it's sort of like, oh, these two clearly don't get on and they're costing each other matches, but they're still teaming for some reason for a while, even though they should just be it.
Melo Don't Miz is happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as I all promotions do something like that. But I mean, really, this should go on to maybe even a match at, I don't know whether they do it on the Buy-In All Out or just next week on either Dynamite Collision. It should just be Kill Switch killing Kip Sabian 1-on-1 and then moving on. Maybe just go back to Luchasaurus because he's clearly the babyface out of the two of them. You can't turn. Well, he should be essentially Kill Switch beats Kip Sabian and then Nick Wayne comes back and then they're doing stuff together instead. I mean, feuding with each other in that regard.
Ideally.
Yeah. We had like a couple of segments like Big Bill did a promo about Eddie Kingston. Again, they're just going to have a match at the show. Didn't really add too much more to it.
Fun fact, if you don't watch Collision, I saw some people being like, wait, what's happening now?
Right.
Because I guess people don't watch Collision and don't keep up with stuff on the internet. Twitter. If you only watch Dynamite, this is your, oh shit, Eddie Kingston's back. Which, like I said on the preview pod, I'm excited for this.
As one of those people that doesn't watch Collision most of the time, it is kind of jarring when that happens sometimes, because there'll be situations where it'll just be like, well, obviously so-and-so's having a 4-way because they've been feuding 4 different people at the same time, and you're like, that's fucking news to me. Okay, sure.
We had Danielson sit-down interview with Darby Allin, which in a way, like, obviously it's good because they've had that interconnection in the fact they both helped Hangman beat Death Riders. We know how Danielson's relationship with Death Riders, and obviously Allen's one as well, so it was nice to see them interact with each other about this. Although it does feel like Bryan Danielson is now encroaching on all of Tony Schiavone's jobs. So gotta leave the guy something to do. Riho beat Roman Renegade as you expected. It wasn't left immediately obvious based on that Renegade's going to join a faction with Mercedes Moné, and like the Renegades will be a faction with them, so that might still be up in the air, but you know, you need to give Riho a win before she fights Mercedes, so.
And it's still a possibility too, because they could just have the Renegades come out during the pay-per-view and cost her because they're mad at having lost to Riho on September, remember?
Yeah. It was kind of officially announced on Dynamite that it's going to be Daniel Garcia versus Katsuyori Shibata on the Buy-In show, or the Tailgate show, if you want to call it that.
They added that, and they added the Ops against, the Ops being Hobbs and Joe against 2 other people. I'm forgetting who it was. The Workhorsemen.
The Workhorsemen?
If I remember correctly.
It is the Workhorsemen, yes.
Wow,
that's just like
cool. Out of nowhere.
That happening for, you know?
Yeah, why aren't they facing, like, I don't know, Claudio and Yuta or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems an odd one to pull out. But and then we had your Rampage main event, Josh Alexander and Edge Zero versus Top Flight. That feels like a Rampage main event, not even a Collision main event.
Yeah, that was when they got to the point, like about 3/4 of the way through the show, and I was like, well, what the hell's going to main event now? Because I assumed that it was going to be some other things, but.
Well, I guess it's a 2-pronged thing of like, because the reason why it's main evented, well, obviously you have like Edge Zero and Josh Alexander wins during the tag title match, but the main reason was to make sure there was Don Callis family members in the ring for the final segment with Paige and Fletcher.
And the reality is, they've done this in the past. That's Collision. Like, that wasn't Dynamite. That's why that main evented that. They've tied it together nicely with the post-match, but that's why that really main evented.
It was quite a good thing because it was kind of like an end-to-end thing with, like, you start the show with the contract signing and you end it with Fletcher taking Hangman out with the belt shot and then dropping the brain buster through the table like he did, which took out Kenny Omega. So obviously selling that as like a big move to be like, okay, now Hangman's in real trouble going into the pay-per-view. So as I say, we know what the result of the pay-per-view match is going to be. If anybody's like paints into any sort of logic, but at least can add that element of jeopardy and help Fletcher look stronger going into the show. So yeah, I thought overall this was a good 3-hour show. As I don't think most TV should be 3 hours. Like it's if it's a one-off thing, then that's sure to do that every now and again. But yeah, I thought that it came together well.
Yeah, I liked it. I assume that that's going to be an easier 3-hour watch than a lot of other.
The 6-hour watch they're going to have at the weekend, followed by the ads show afterwards.
I'm still confused about what's going on with that. And that could be a topic even of itself. WWE has something going on with like a special. I guess it was airing when we were doing this. I don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention. But then they're also doing something at 3:00 tomorrow. And on top of that, they're also doing the pre-show. The hell are they doing? I know that they're like trying to, what they're trying to do, but like, what is the thing that's happening tomorrow before the pre-show? What was happening now? How much extra fucking pre-show can you get? Tony? Is it just that? Football?
You ever notice how like what is technically like 11 minutes of playtime has like a 5-hour pre-show, followed by a deeper pre-show, followed by a post-show? It's that. Like it's ESPN doing that stuff.
Ugh. Well, I ain't watching that. That's for sure. Fuck that. You don't need 5 hours worth of pre-show for even WrestleMania, let alone for Wrestlepalooza. But nevertheless, Wrestlepalooza is happening on Saturday after AEW All Out. I don't think there's any other hot tags that I got written down. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
What do you guys want to talk about? No, I don't think we're missing anything. Oh, you know what? I had mentioned on this. I don't remember if I said it on the air, but if I didn't, there was a quote from Mark Shapiro that basically said, "Shame on Vince McMahon for not maximizing profit and thinking of families when pricing tickets," which is the most gross thing ever. And I'll say it again because it's disgusting. But Ricochet had kind of taken that ball and run with it. I think he told Ariel Helwani, yeah, AEW is a family alternative when it comes to pricing. And, Tony Khan has taken the ball and run with that and talked about wanting everybody to be able to enjoy wrestling. He's also said that he has big plans for the spring of 2027 and that year's Revolution. He was asked this on a media call. I believe it was Jason Powell of ProWrestling.net who said, "Hey, WrestleMania is in Saudi. What do you have anything in mind for spring 2027?" And he seemed very open for it. And I just hope that they do this. I think this is a great opportunity to really separate yourself. And to that degree, I will say that post-wrestling, John Pollock, Brandon Thurston, great reporting on the conventions that usually go to Mania and whether or not they even remotely consider following them to Saudi. Brett Lauderdale of GCW said it's too early to tell and that people have reached out. And the person in charge of WrestleCon said, no way, we're just going to find a city in the States and do our own thing. I can't imagine GCW going to Saudi Arabia, but I imagine that's really alienating your fan base. Specifically them even more than WWE.
I just can't imagine.
You can't do the big gay brunch.
Yeah, like you can't do that. And you are in such a situation where like being in a completely different country like that, you don't know how interested anybody can be in non-WWE stuff. So you're really going to invest that much money and hope that there's going to be that big of a groundswell of support. I think that that's too much of a risk because you have to then also pay for people to travel in a different way. A lot of people on these shows would just be like, they're perfectly fine driving there themselves, or they're flying there themselves, or they live in the area or something. It's a different story if it's like to go to Saudi Arabia. So I hope that
Yeah.
Tony Khan puts on some kind of like, whether that's Revolution or if it's, I kind of want him to troll a little bit and make it like, I don't know, AEW presents Wrestle something or other. I don't know. I can't think of a name off the top of my head, but just like do that and be like, okay, well then if WWE is going to do that, then we're going to be the ones that have StarCast and such around. So it should be.
I imagine WWE's lawyers will come out guns blazing, but I don't know if anybody owns the term WrestleFest. And if not, you should try to jump on that. Not you, obviously, Tony.
I mean,
It would be
maybe
fun.
I'll get that domain.
It would be fun if they sort of lapsed on like Starcade or something like that, and they could pick that up. But I assume that they would never be able to do that. But I'd try and say I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'd try and like come up with a name that was that resonates the idea of I don't know if it's like Homecoming or something like that. Like they're where they should be, whereas they've taken it somewhere else, or like just to push the idea of like, I don't know, that this is what it should be like the idea of like they've gone for the money, so we're going to be some sort of term or some sort of phrase that they can use to say like, okay,
this is like
we
for
know
the true fans that are like the way
I-
that Mania should be at the moment right now, and we're giving you that. We're giving you the real thing, kind of.
if you feel like AEW the real thing,
or-
yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's something that like that like, you know, not so subtly winks at the fact that this is why we're putting on the show. This is why you would want to watch this rather than what they're doing.
Yeah, I
It'd be
like
interesting
that
as well
idea.
because they'd have to put it on a like, because obviously if it's happening in Saudi Arabia, there'll be a different time slot as well, so it'll be running at a different time to what the traditional WrestleMania time would be airing to fit with the local time. So they have to put the AEW show on in the afternoon as well. But you know, that's easily done. And then as I say, like you build a whole, because a lot of the things about WrestleMania and the place it's hosted is because then you build up the indie convention scene around it. So you have all of those extra shows that would just invade the city that WrestleMania is hosted for the week and just do a regular rotation of shows, and you make AEW the center of that instead.
Mm.
And you could get some like interesting matches or interesting people showing up on the AEW card that you wouldn't necessarily have in general. So I can see the appeal in doing it. I don't know. Tony Khan's been pretty bullish about it, which makes me feel like he is going to do it. But, you know, we're still a year and a half away from that happening. A lot of things can change in that time. So I wouldn't hold too much stock into it at this point.
I hope he does, if not just because, you know, fuck WWE for doing that. I hope that they can get like the negative press that goes along with it and all. I don't like this.
WrestleMania.
Bestelmania. Maybe there's like some kind of a term with elite that you can throw in there that could be like playing into that. But whatever it is, we got plenty of time before that ends up being announced, because it's certainly not going to be announced in the next, couple weeks or something like that. This is something that's going to take a while. They got to find avenues to navigate. They got to talk to people, see if there's really like a whole lot of interest. We don't have anything announced for that year yet, so it's not like they've already like announced things and they need to rearrange it or whatever. Like it's a complicated thing, but I'm all down for them being like, oh, you want a counter program? Well, here's a middle finger to you dudes.
Yeah, I'm so for that. I really can't stand that they're doing this. I'm so for AEW just running a proper Mania.
So more on that front if that gets announced, whenever that gets announced and all that. And keep in mind too, as we said before, we got the pay-per-views coming up tomorrow. So All Out is going to be the next thing that you got to really be paying attention to. And then Wrestlepalooza after that. I am about 99% sure that I'll just have a post show after Wrestlepalooza as opposed to after All Out. But there is always a possibility that after All Out, I decide to just hop on and do some kind of a post show there. So make sure that you have your email alert set up for that. And then that way, if I do go live, then you know. Keep in mind all that Smark Play stuff I mentioned before as well. Join the Discord server and also go to amagratree.com and check out everything that's over there on the Linktree list. Make sure you're following Rob and Callum too.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice and check out my work on Fightful.com. We'll have coverage of all the events this Saturday. So that's where you need to go.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings this Saturday, which will be ranking the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances prior to what takes place at Wrestlepalooza. And speaking of Wrestlepalooza, you should also be following the Fantasy League over at www.fantasyleague.com. See how Wrestlepalooza impacts in terms of the rankings or the standings and the points are scored on that particular time. And of course, whoever wins the prediction contest we put together will get some slight advantages moving forward in that as well. So for all the latest information on that, head on over to www.fantasyleague.com.
Okie dokie, everybody. Make sure you leave those comments below. Tell us what you thought about all this stuff. And as we said before, stay tuned. And we will see you when we see you in the post show. Join in the live chats. Have some fun over there. And enjoy the pay-per-views too. And enjoy SmackDown tonight. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.